in the USA, okay, there is a big living quarters where the head of
President, White House.
yes,
This is you get this from a store, from a bakery, and it's in Bordeaux. It's in Paris.
Croissant.
Yes.
Lives in water, and it's a big lizard. Huge.
crocodile,
Another word.
alligator.
Okay.
كل الاشياء ما يصير. ما اعرف.
The cards are broken.
Okay. When you wake up. what do you
Alarm.
do? No. What do
Brush
you
your
do?
teeth.
Yes.
No.
What do you
Teeth
put-
brushing.
What do you put on?
Toothpaste.
No. It's not.
Okay,
إيش علاقة tooth?
You do this to kids
punish them.
to make them laugh.
Tickle them.
Oh God, feed off. All right.
Good.
Yalla. Bismillah. On this special episode, on this season, we are going to talk about shame. We are going to try to discuss as much as we can how to overcome shame. How does shame make us feel? The effects of shame on us, and does it shape us? Is our personality today, is it a product of some of the shame that's been with us since we were children? We have a very special guest today,
Yeah.
Nutaila AlKharusi.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having us. Or having me, sorry.
You and the doctor.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, what we're gonna do right now is, because I think we have different definitions on shame. We're gonna go around on our definitions. Do you want to start?
Okay, sure. So shame. So it's a very self-conscious emotion, right? I believe that shame is that feeling you get when you feel very small, like you feel humiliated, you feel like you just want to, sink to the floor and just vanish. It's when you basically you don't have that safe haven from the judging gazes of others. And it's very, when you have shame, you look inwards a lot and you see yourself in a very negative manner. And you're very critical of yourself. So for me, that's what I think of shame. I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you think shame is?
I think
Yeah.
you experience shame whenever you move outside of the parameters of like the set protocols that are set by society.
Yeah. When you violate social norms, yes, yeah. I agree with that, yeah.
Two things come to mind.
Yeah.
The first is the word aib.
Yes.
And I think it's what parents think is
Yeah.
their responsibility
Yeah.
to discipline their kids.
Yeah.
This is what the first thing that comes to mind. The second thing is that, as you said, feeling small, the lowest vibration someone can feel.
Yeah.
Literally the lowest. I think the lowest you can feel is shame.
Yeah.
I think shame is a product, and close to what she was saying.
Yeah.
It's a product to keep or protect or reserve the family traditions, thoughts, and it might go in different levels or standards
Yeah.
in the society.
Yeah.
But like the definition of the shame itself is لما تحس نفسك ليمون. يعني squeeze.
Small.
Yeah, كذا.
Yeah.
People will حتى even if you try to help it out for yourself,
Yeah.
it doesn't work.
Yeah. But I think you can work on it.
Yeah. Once
Yes.
you acknowledge or
Once you recognize
Yes.
it and acknowledge it, then
Yeah.
you can.
I think That
Yeah.
what I find really interesting about shame is
Yeah.
even when you recognize it,
Yes.
it doesn't take you out of the experience of it. Like you can still recognize and see
Yeah.
it happening,
Mm-hmm.
but you just don't know how to place it because it's so deeply ingrained in
Yes,
you.
yes, yeah. It's deeply ingrained in you because it really affects your core, and you start having these negative core beliefs about yourself. You know, I am unworthy, I am unlovable, you know, there's something wrong with me, right? So it stays with you for a while, and it's very you know, it's very damaging. There's a lot of like long-term damage, but I know that there is hope and that people can overcome it, and people can, if they really, you know, work on themselves and they find out the source of that shame and the triggers and so on, and acknowledge it and be more self-compassionate, and then they can, you know, change that to something, you know, better, and not feel that shame, you know?
Can you get to a point where
yeah.
you're completely shame-free?
I don't know. That's a very good question, right? You know, I think as you were saying, Mohammed, صح? Okay. Yeah, so you were saying that sometimes we need to have a little bit of shame to preserve the culture and so on. So it's funny that you mentioned that, because with shame, sometimes people believe that you need to have shame in order to be to adhere to a socially adaptive way. You know, it makes you more, you know, socially acceptable, right? To persevere the culture and so on. So
Do you think it's about social acceptability, or it's just like a set way of living life that's tried and tested, and this is the right way to do it, and then there is a wrong way to do it?
What do you mean by that?
As in, okay, so everybody that's come before us have done things in a certain way, or they believe that there is a right way of doing things.
Yes.
So it's not really about like you become more socially acceptable because of that. That's the right way to live rather than the wrong way to live.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
I think any kind of change will be faced with some kind of resistance.
Yes.
And so we've been doing things this way for this amount of years.
Yes.
And now this guy or this girl is trying to do something different, or is not convinced with a certain thing. And now the easiest thing to do is to shame them.
Yes.
For them to
shame them to go back to
to do what we're trying to do. Because it's a very cultural thing. We could be doing the same thing. Could be considered shameful here. Very adi
in another culture, for instance. But do you think there also one thing we should realize is shame and guilt, right? It's very related to each other. They're like cousins. So maybe is it guilt that we feel like sometimes when we violate the social norms here?
Is it because of the results, Annie?
I think when you're shamed for doing something, you will feel guilty.
Yes. So I think with shame, you can only feel the shame if you believe the social norm that you violated, you actually desire. You believe in that social norm. Only then will you feel shame.
But
don't you
think that it's like you feel so much pressure to revert to the way that things are because nobody actually knows how to live life properly?
Yes.
It's always kind of like a hit and a miss. Like
you
could actually do everything the way that everyone told you to live your life and then be absolutely miserable as well.
Yes. True. Yeah. We're all conditioned, right? Yeah. True.
You didn't give us your example, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think shame is? Your definition.
Definition.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I was, so to me, it's the feeling of embarrassment, and maybe I like when you use humiliation as well.
Yes. Yeah.
For doing something, let's say dishonorable, or what's considered dishonorable or immoral in your culture.
Yes.
That's my definition of shame.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. It all depends on you. If you think what you're doing is immoral or unethical, then you will feel shame.
Yeah.
But I think shame is also, it's your belief. It hits at your core. So shame is like saying that, I'm such a loser, I can't believe, I did that. There's something wrong with me. There's something like defective with me, I'll give you a very good example that I can think of that I felt shame. I remember I was in 3rd grade and
third grade.
yeah, and it stayed with me.
You think that 3rd grade is young?
I have
We're
vivid
girls,
memories
okay?
from 1st grade.
We're girls. We've
With
been
shame.
experiencing shame since we were toddlers. So
Sorry.
No, but you see,
Toddlers.
but you see, it stays at your core, right? And then you start believing these things about you, and for a long time, if you don't work on it, of course. And then you also, with shame, there's a lot of research that shows if people that experience shame, they also have low self-esteem. So if you have high self-esteem, then that's a buffer for you. Then there's a less chance of you being, susceptible to shame, But anyway, so in 3rd grade, I remember I was in a government school, مدرسة الخوض الابتدائية. I will never forget. So my parents were dropping me to school. Okay, I don't drive. I'm 8 years old. So I was late to school one day. My parents dropped me late. It was not my fault. It was my parents' fault. And I remember me and a bunch of other students, we were, all of us were late. And when they were done doing the tabur and all that, the headmistress called us all, me and the other kids that were late, onto stage. Okay. And she told us to extend our arms like that and our palms facing up, and جابت كده مسطرة. Okay, الخشبية, the long مسطرة, the long من رياضيات. Anyway, and she hit us on our first time ever, and I get أصلا hit
And in front of
so
everyone.
in front of everyone, in front of the whole school, setting an example in a look. It was unwanted exposure, right? And she humiliated us. And basically that day I felt and I believed I am a bad person. I am a bad girl. I am naughty, there is, it's not, she didn't punish. She basically was telling me that there is something, or telling me and my peers that there's something wrong with us. You guys اللي ما جيتوا, you guys were on time. You should never be like these people, because these kids are naughty. These kids, they're defective. There's something wrong with them. You should never be like that. Do you understand? So that she was basically punishing us, but that caused a lot of shame. So it's very important, even for parents, to realize when they want to discipline their kids, they should always remember not to shame or to make the child feel that there's something wrong with them. To always specify the behavior, to be specific, and know what you did was wrong, but nothing is wrong with you. That you are not a naughty person, but what you did hurt my feelings, and it can cause problems. Why did you hit your brother? But there's nothing wrong with you. I understand, but you could have found a better way, for instance.
Isolating that incident to just one thing.
Yes, and not the essence of you. For me, that is shame, طبعا.
I feel called to share my story, which I've told you guys about. And it's my dyslexic story. So when I was about 12 years old, one of my Islamic teachers, my Islamic teacher at the time, took me in front of the class and told the class that if they wanted to be successful, that they would do everything that I didn't do. The way that she picked me up from my shirt and made me stand in front of the class is something that I still can't get over.
Yeah.
Until today.
Yeah.
31 years old. This
Yeah.
is something that happened when I was 12.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I found out that the reason that I wasn't as successful as the other kids is because I was dyslexic.
Yeah. 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 But you at that moment, she made you believe that there was something wrong with you, right?
I still have
Yes.
to try and remind myself whenever I start going to that dark place that it's not real. Because it's not like I found out the next day.
Yeah.
When you're a kid, you're a sponge, right?
Yes, of course.
How do you get over something like that?
There's a lot that you can do, but I just want to empathize with you and say that, I'm sorry that you had to, go through that. It must have been very tough for you. But the fact that you are aware of it and you acknowledge, that those emotions, and you accept those difficult emotions and the thoughts that come with it, I think that's your first step to recovery, but being also very self-compassionate, how you talk to yourself. I think the messages that we give ourselves, that is very important. How do you talk to yourself, right? Reframe the way you think about yourself and challenge those belief systems as well. Okay? So if someone you loved and cared about was going through what you were going through, experience what you experienced, how would you talk to them? And then you talk to yourself the same way, because it's so hard for us to be kind to ourselves, right? We're very self-critical. But when someone else is experiencing trauma or a negative experience, we are very, we're willing to be compassionate towards them and be kind to them. So ask yourself, okay, if someone was going through what I am going through, what would I tell them? What would I say to them? And then you treat yourself the same way. So you treat yourself with kindness. It's the messages that you give yourself. Yeah?
All right.
I do have a story regarding what you guys been saying. I do finance. So one of the places I worked in, I was stepped on. So whatever I was doing, no matter how knowledge I had, what I was offering, it was never enough for them. So because of when they were stepping on me, I was feeling I'm not doing it right. I feel there's something wrong. So it was just building up. So once I moved out, I felt that I have so many things that I can offer, but people were just discrediting me, or feeling that I am not enough or good fit for that place. So I've been moved from departments till I was failing up, and alhamdulillah, I got the opportunity to leave out and start a new journey. But this story is just somewhere on my heart, and it hurts.
Do you still feel?
Yes, it hurts a lot. I try to find ways, but even when you find ways, you distract yourself with other stuff. But the main feeling is just living there. You just cannot extract it out.
The thing is, it affects your confidence and self-esteem as well, right?
Yes.
Even if you, now that you moved to another company, it's still somewhere there, and it could affect. I mean, this is a small example. It could affect your performance in this company, right?
Yes.
Which is a good segue to where we're going right now. Because why did we feel that we want to tackle, shame in childhood, teenagers, but then adults, is because I think most of the effects you have as a child lives in you until you're adults, unless you do the work, right? You said, you mentioned that most of your clients are children, yani?
No, most of my clients are young adults or teenagers. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, but I do work with kids.
Kids.
Yes, some kids, but I would say 80% of my clientele are young adults,
right,
and teenagers. Yeah.
Did you notice any symptoms of shame in some of your clients?
يعني all the time, even the fact that when people come to therapy, right, there's always shame lurking around in because they're dealing with the difficult emotions, they're bringing up like difficult things that have happened in their past. So there's definitely shame there, because remember, shame is when you internalize it, when you look at yourself in a negative way, and you just feel humiliated and small. And the fact that they come, right, they sometimes even the first thing that comes out of their mouth is like, I'm so embarrassed, like I feel so ashamed of like talking about this or saying this. So there's always shame there. So shame is definitely there. Yeah.
Right, and those are young adults, right?
Yes, young adults, even with my grown-up clients. The shame is there.
Your example was young adults coming up to you and say, before they share their stuff, they say, I'm embarrassed or I'm ashamed. You have to think, like, we have to remember that as kids, like, once we cried, they told us, stop, العيب. يعني, okay, like, for us guys, مثلا, عيب, انت ولد, انت قوي, don't cry. يعني من أطفال نحن, وفي already that sense of shame for doing something that's not supposed to be shameful. يعني. So I can only...
Even for this مثلا, when you grow up, they will tell you, no, you have to be a doctor, you have to be this and this. If you don't be, it will build up in you ashamed us. All of your family are doctors, all your family are lawyers. Why you're not? So until you feel like, I'm an odd, I don't feel like belong to this family. So تحس جزء من النقص إنه you're not fitting in this family. It might build up.
Yeah, of course, it's wrong. Especially the part that you were saying that like, let's say if a child falls, or especially in our culture when a boy like gets hurt and falls down, على طول they tell the child, no, انت رجال ما تصيح, عادي, okay? So what does that tell the child? It confuses the child, because the child feels a lot of pain and the child feels sad, but yet my parents are telling me I'm not supposed to feel this way, that it is wrong, it is shameful to feel sad or to express yourself, So you internalize it, and then if you don't work on it, then you grow up and you're like, okay, as a man, I'm not supposed to express my emotions. I shouldn't be sad. Although it is normal. You're meant to have a range of emotions, and you're meant to feel all those emotions. You're meant to feel anger, jealousy, shame, guilt. Yani, it's okay. It's fine. But what you do about it, that's what counts, So I like that you said that. And exactly what you said, that, shame is when you feel just that there's something, you feel a bit inferior as well, especially when people compare you to others, and that's a no-no. Like, parents should not be doing that. They don't know any better, I believe. They're trying to maybe motivate the child.
I don't think they mean anything.
Yes, yeah.
But it's also very common to be compared to your cousin, even, مثلا. Your cousin did something, let's say after school, your cousin was accepted into مثلا university and you were not. The first, and since it's my brother's son, my brother's gonna tell me that my son was accepted at uni. I'm gonna hear about it. I'm gonna go to my son, tell him Flan got accepted at the university, and I don't even have to say anything. I just mention this news to you and leave. That's more than enough. All right? There's just so many things. So you have a son?
Yes.
You have a son?
I have a daughter and a son. Yeah.
If you're comfortable sharing, how do you teach your son to express his feelings?
Okay.
First of all, sorry, do you do it, is it different
No, it's the same.
So the same thing with the Josa
Same,
and Sia?
Exactly. Amara will be 8 in January. Yeah, Amara. Thank you. And Ayman will be 5 in January. Yeah. So they're 4 now and 7s. Yeah, almost 8 and 5. So no, I treat them the same way. I'm not perfect. We're all not perfect, so I do make mistakes. But when it comes to them expressing their emotions, like the other day, yesterday, I went abseiling for the first time with my daughter, and she was really scared. I was scared as well. And she was really scared because she's going down a mountain for the first time ever. So I was telling her it's okay to be scared. It's all right, Amara. You have every right to feel scared. And I was also telling her, I am also scared. But I was modeling. I said, okay, let's talk about it. What do you want to do? Do you want to go? I explained to her, that, look, everything is safe. You can see other people going down. It's quite safe. But it's what you do. You'll be very courageous, and it's okay to try something new, even though you feel scared. It's okay to feel scared. So I never said, don't be scared, don't madri worry, don't. No, I didn't do that. I said, what do you want to do? You if you don't want to do it, it's okay as well.
Yeah.
But I validated that emotion of fear. And it's the same thing with my son. If he falls down and he cries, the first thing I ask is, are you okay? That's important. مش okay احمله وخبره لا ما تبكي عادي you're okay. No, maybe he's not okay. So you need to find out, are you okay? Yes, it hurts. Okay, where does it hurt? Process it with him and so on. Make sense out of it. So you're teaching your child that it's okay to feel sad. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not shameful to have these emotions, so that's I think very, very important.
My experience with shame was a bit
Yes.
not only بس على the psychological level,
or
other than being a girl, it was using religion to shame. And لين الحين ما أعرف أفرق ما بين الشعور بالذنب عشان المجتمع أو الشعور بالذنب عشان إيماني. Yeah.
So you touched upon guilt. So and guilt and shame is a bit similar, and it's all what you're trying to say is basically you don't know if you feel guilty because you violated a social norm, right? A religious, ethical, moral norm, or you believe it. You believe that this social norm that you have violated is very important to you.
So am I supposed to feel this way?
It all
Because my
depends on-
religion tells me to.
Yes, but it depends on how you view your religion. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Okay, so it all depends on your faith.
A father, I think, burned the whole house down. So including his daughter, who is a wife, and her husband, and whoever was in, because it was a love marriage. So he's been keeping it in for like 2-3 months, and they're like, nah, I can't. Because in some countries, in some cultures, that's a no. It has to be traditional, it has to be... So yeah, honor killing?
That's not really an honor killing.
That's what it's called?
An honor killing is basically when something happens that's untoward and the family feels like the only way that they can relieve the girl of her sin is to kill her.
Or restore their honor.
Restore
Yes,
honor.
their reputation, to maintain it and their status.
The last time you guys were shamed, what did you do to overcome it? Or did you overcome it?
I just started doing shadow work, which is kind of hypnosis, where I go into my subconscious mind and find out, let my subconscious tell me where the wrong wiring happened, basically. And it's deep work, but it's ongoing. It's like a three times a week thing. That's how I'm overcoming what's been wired long time ago. And the things that have been coming up in the hypnosis are stuff that happened very, very, very early on. يعني maybe حتى 3 years old, 4 years old. You don't see them clearly, but the subconscious is very intelligent. It can bring all the things up. So yeah, I'm doing this course thing. يعني.
Cool. Yeah. Shadow work.
Shadow work.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. For me, I would say I would just acknowledge the emotion. I think it's very important to be able to identify how you feel, right? A lot of people are not good at identifying their emotions, and that is quite important for your mental well-being. So I would identify, okay, I am experiencing right now shame. I am having this thought, right? And I find the source of it. You know, I would say that I always brought a journal. I'm very good at like journaling and putting my thoughts down. I do this also. I tell this to my clients a lot. I was telling you, you know, recently that you should write love letters to yourself. Like, be kind to yourself, and that's what I do. That's the work that I do. You know, and at the end, I say, you know, love, basically, because it's love letters to me, you know, dear Nutaila. So, you know, I know that you had a hard time today. I know that you experienced this and so on. I just want you to know that this is temporary. This is a fleeting emotion. You will feel this way right now, but things will get better. Love, you know, for instance. So that's how I do it.
Do you need to understand or know the root of where the shame came from every time, or do you just need to process the feeling and feel it? ما شرط أعرف بالضبط وين كان هذا.
Yeah, ما شرط. You know, ما شرط. You know, whatever works for you at the end of the day. Does that make sense? Yeah. So if you couldn't find the source of that feeling or the shame that you felt, and then you did the shadow work and it worked for you and it helped you, then yeah, by all means, do more of that. Yeah.
To what she said, the
journaling,
the journals or the letters you're sending to yourself. There is a website. I don't know the name. I'll bring it. But it's like you send an emails for future you. Yeah, I don't know if you guys heard about this. So you just send an email on that spot, and you get it. Like you decide the date and the time.
You'll receive it.
You will receive it, and it will be like within I was this person at that time.
Yeah.
I became this person now, so it's really nice.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
With an act surprised. Do you guys know Mr. Bean?
Yeah.
Mr. Bean, you remember that episode?
No.
It was Christmas. في الليل قبل ما ينام حط هدية قام الصباح.
I do remember that. Yeah.
That's good, يا أخي. That's a good idea.
What about you?
I recently, like a year الحين, I started journaling and make it sound lyrical. And I meditate. That's what I do. It helps me. It helps me a lot with overcoming not just shame, most emotions. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I'm very impressed. Meditation is key. Mindfulness, to be more aware and mindful and aware of your emotions in the here and now, because it makes you less reactive as well, right? So you're more of an observer of your thoughts and your emotions, and then you decide which thoughts you want to act on and which thoughts you want to let go of. I don't know if you yeah. So the more you do it.
Do you meditate?
I'm a bit guilty. I do mindfulness, which is a form of like meditation, but mine is very informal. I don't sit there and listen to an audio or just do
guided meditation,
or do breath works or any of that. I do it in the shower. So I do a mindfulness shower. What I engage in my 5 senses. What is it that I hear? How does the water feel against me? What is it that I smell? You know, what is it that I taste and see, and so on. And whenever my mind goes elsewhere, I bring it back to, you know, the task at hand. Yes. So that's my thing. Because for me to just, you know, set a minute or 5 minutes, it's doable. And I shouldn't be saying that because I preach this to others, you know. But I found that this is what works for me. Yeah.
I got ashamed a year or two before, and I got really offended. It's funny, but I can relate to that.
Was it
pushed
also at work?
No, it's something else. It's a side work. I've been pushing a lot of people to get into the social media, or push them to be success, guide them what to do, not to do, how to be, create your identity. Where I didn't get to that level. You know, you see what I'm saying? I got a lot of people, but I'm still sitting on their seats. So it hurts. And I've seen a lot of successful people just within my hands.
Did someone shame you for it, or is it just a feeling?
No. Okay. Someone came to me and it's like, you do a lot of help, or you push a lot of people to the market and you help them, and you're just here. You're supposed to be above, not with or below.
Do you think they told you to shame you, or
we all want to jump in now? This got me thinking.
And I felt ashamed of.
But do you think he said that to shame you or to motivate you?
I think it was a motivation kind of shooting. But I got ashamed, and I'm working on it now.
Can I say that because I kind of did the same thing, very similar, but from the artistic perspective. So the people that I was talking to were more artists and trying to encourage them to do work when I wasn't actually practicing being an artist, you know? And I did that for like 2 years. I think that sometimes it's useful, especially if you have a lot of knowledge, that you can always teach other people, especially if they're willing to hear. And if they apply that and it works for them, that's great. Eventually, you need to find the motivation separately. So I don't think that you necessarily have to feel shame for not being at the level that you need to be, but always keep in mind that you should have like a time for when it's time for you to move into that space and do it for yourself.
True.
But I don't think that there's anything wrong with the way that you did it. Personally, it helped me a lot. Because when it was time for me to actually take it seriously, I flourished because I'd already helped other people do it. I've seen how, like, the trials and error, you know, I held their hand through that process. And then I was able to hold my own hand when my time. I didn't need anybody else.
This is the good part.
Exactly.
I have something to add to that I feel, or what I learned until now, in the shame, it's heavy. It's a heavy feeling, and it sort of كأنك شايل أثقال معك. You're trying to move, but you're still carrying these weights. Until you let it go, process it أول, until you let it go, then I feel I felt that way, especially in some places of my life, career-wise أو هذا. Few places I got stuck because I was carrying a lot of weight from the past. And once I started letting go slowly from doing the work, and that work can be anything, as you said, whatever works for you, but shame is heavy. That's what I'm trying to say. And it's heavy, and it keeps you stuck somewhere sometimes.
Yeah. But you see, you felt shame because it was internalized. It is you telling yourself, giving yourself.
I was directing this in my inner self.
Yes, exactly. So shame is inwards. It's that light that you give inwards, but it's a negative light. It's when you feel bad about yourself, right?
Do you guys think shame is important to have some sort of shame?
Is there benefits to shame?
Yeah.
the benefit from the perspective of society trying to control and trying to get people to go in the right path, yes, but I don't think that you need it. Like, who wants shame? Why is it important? Like, why?
What did you say before about the society?
That basically, like, society has these set of rules, you know, that you follow, and if you fall out of that, they use shame to get you to go on the right path. So in that aspect, I guess there is a use for it.
It's desirable.
But
Yes.
is there like psychological benefit to shame?
I don't think there are any psychological benefits to
I think
shame.
that was the question.
Yeah, there aren't any. If anything, there are more like ramifications and negative consequences of due to shame. People that experience who are shame prone, right? There's a higher risk for them to develop low self-esteem, depression, anxiety. So in essence, it's more negative. And then when kids experience it at a very young age as well, at a chronic, chronically, I would say chronic shame, they experience it a lot. They would not even become there's a high risk of them becoming, they internalize it and they always try to overpower someone who is more vulnerable than them and stand over them and become like bullies, for instance. They're not independent thinkers. They don't have a mind of their own. They're also, some of them can be like super compliant, that they are not even risk takers. They don't want to be independent. They just want to do whatever it takes to prevent themselves from experiencing future shame. So if anything, I don't think it's beneficial. Only I agree with you when you say that it could be beneficial if you want to get people to be abiding to social norms and be a low abiding citizen or something, or meet the cultural expectations. I agree with that,
But there's a globalization. These two cultures, the global culture are getting mixed with the culture we're having here. So a lot of things, this way in this era, we have this certain beliefs or values we believe in, and بعدين the Western kind of cultures and values. Yeah. So when these two things mix up, can actually create a lot of shame points. Thank you. Shame points, and this is always trigger the parents for a sense.
I know they're shaming us for normalizing what we got from the West, basically.
Yes, definitely.
It's a really good point. Yeah.
No,
I'm the product of that.
What does that mean? Can you guys
مثلا
elaborate on that? Yeah.
now you don't wear you're not wearing hijab, you're wearing shorts, you're wearing you're westernized. So you're normalizing that, and طبعا the older generation or whoever is shaming you because now you're going against tradition, our culture.
So they're judging you, right, for going against the cultural norms, right? And then you may internalize that, and you may start feeling shame, right? Or you might even start feeling guilty for going against these social norms. Yeah.
And I honestly think that that's just for me, that struggle was just against progress. That's the way that I feel. Because me trying to mix and collide those two worlds is not because I want to be more Western and I want to identify with something other than where I come from. I'm trying to progress. And maybe those things fall out of the scope of what society deems as acceptable, because we're just so used to being sheep and following the herd. And I guess that's what this podcast is really about, right?
It's about what?
Being sheep.
No, being an outcast.
Oh, okay.
And not following the herd.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
But do you think if you're an outcast, you would be more more prone to shame? Yes.
For sure. Because you're an outcast, you stand out. And anything that stands out that's other is always going to be shamed because you don't fall in line.
more prone
Even
to
if it's
being
good thing,
shamed.
yes.
بس
No.
نحن يعني
Yes. I meant to experience the
أيوة.
shame.
But I
not
think
to
if-
be, obviously as an outcast, you'll be judged more by others, right? But shame is when you negatively evaluate yourself. So as an outcast, would you be more likely to evaluate yourself negatively, to look inwards and look at yourself negatively?
I think that introspection is really important for anyone, whether you think that you're an outcast or not.
What does that mean?
Um,
To
Introspection.
build insight.
yeah, basically like looking within, doing the shadow
Yes.
work, that's all introspection.
Study of oneself. Introspection,
Yeah, so that's really important, but I think that shame comes from also not finding your tribe. I think the second that I started finding people who are like-minded, that are like me, it did really instill in me the fact that I might not be wrong, because I'm always gonna fall back and compare this newfound knowledge or this newfound value that I'm trying to instill in myself and trying to evaluate that against something that I know, because I don't want to do something that's wrong. I'm not just going to be stubborn for the sake of being stubborn. I'm trying to progress. I'm trying to live a better life. But what are you going to compare it to? What you know. So I wouldn't internalize the shame unless I actually felt like there's something that's out of whack and something that's out of balance. But finding...
If you, which leads me to my next question. This is for Aisha and Manal. Since starting this podcast, were there any attempt to shame you guys? For example, because we already agreed before this that women are more prone to be ashamed than men, right? So here we speak English, we look different. We speak about things that are not really spoken about. So were you ladies?
Did we face that?
Yeah.
So far لا, but I was scared of that. But as you said, and if I was gonna criticize myself, I wouldn't be here. I had this intention, and now whatever happens. I took the step to get over it helped me to get over a lot of shame that I was holding on to. It was just breaking through يعني. I did not face that, alhamdulillah. Not yet, at least.
So, I mean, earlier you wanted me to share basically how I deal with shame. I think because of the way that I've also decided to, like the career path that I've decided to go on, which is very alternative, and I'm like deciding every day what I am and what I'm doing with every project that I take on. A lot of the ways that I try to deal with shame or any negative emotions is I try to use my art and expression to kind of dive into it. So the way that I started going into art in the first place is because I started reading a psychology book. I told you guys the story so many times. And the psychology book was by Carl Jung. And what he used to... It's for them. It's for you guys, just in case you didn't know. But yeah, so Carl Jung is a psychologist, and he used to draw mandalas every day to map out his psyche. And I thought that was really interesting. At the time, I did not know that I even had like one creative bone in my body. It was just an interesting concept of depicting how I was feeling through different kinds of shapes. Just because at the time there was so much going on the inside that I didn't even know what words to use. So I thought, okay, when I feel bad or when I feel like really sharp, I'm going to draw a triangle. It makes sense to me. Or when I feel more fluid, I'm going to draw like maybe a circle or something that's more fluid, you know? And I kept on doing that, and it really helped me to kind of come out of that space. And then I started to see that with every single way that I decided to express myself, even when it comes to dancing, because dancing is my meditation. That's how I release. So the way that you meditate,
You dance.
I dance. Yeah.
Amazing.
What do you guys think? What do you guys think women are ashamed more? Well, women are shamed more than men. And is it
Where do we start?
is it a regional thing or is it a global thing?
I think that it's a global thing for sure.
Specifically regional, أحس.
لا.
What? Well,
There
I
are more
think
blues
there's.
there
I
than
think
there.
that, my opinion, Arab women in general are a bit behind compared to. There is shame globally, but Arab women have been stuck in this for the longest, maybe.
In shame?
You know, shame is a universal emotion, so we all experience it, right? The research shows that women experience it more, right, than men. And the reason for this is that maybe, especially in our region, in this part of the world, there's more social constraints social norms for women to break compared to men. And remember, shame is an emotion that you feel when you violate a social norm. So if there are more social norms for women to break, then they're more likely to experience
More shame.
shame.
Can you
Yeah.
give us examples of those?
So, for instance, hijab, how you appear, for women, the dress code. I would say for men, culturally, it is more acceptable for them to date before marriage. However, for women, it is less acceptable. I'm trying to think what else.
If you're too eager, if you smile too much, if you're too aggressive, if you're friends with the opposite sex,
Yes.
if you go out, if you have a life, if you reveal too much of your body, if you have a voice, if you have a presence, if you have an attitude, like basically if you're a human. Yeah.
Did you say if you're eager first?
If you're too eager. I said aggressive, but also if you're too eager. Did I say eager? No, I did say too eager. Yeah.
Too eager.
If you have ambition.
You're shamed for being
If you're
ambitious.
unmarried, or if you are married and you want to have a career.
Are you judged or are you shamed?
Shamed for?
Yeah, but we experience shame because we're judged, right? Remember, shame, there's no safe haven from the judging gazes of others, right? So there's no safe haven from judgment, and therefore we internalize it, and we look inwards and we see ourselves in a negative manner. I am defective. There's something wrong with me, and so on. And with shame comes a little bit of guilt as well. So guilt is when you feel bad about doing something. So there's a concrete action, right? Shame. So let's say, for example, you didn't come. You showed up late to work. So shame would look like this. A person would think that, I'm such a loser.
Not a good employee.
I'm not a good employee. I'm such a loser. What's wrong with me? I'm such a failure. I can never do anything right. But then guilt would look like a person thinking this way. I let down my employees. I let down my boss, my team. Inshallah, I'll do better next time. So with guilt, there is room to grow. You're heading in a more positive direction. There's a repairing, there's a direction for reparation, right? However, with shame, it can be very debilitating, and it can just spiral out of control, and you go into this negative thinking cycle that there's something wrong with me, and it can show up in other places, so you internalize it. There's this negative core belief. So that's the difference between shame and guilt, right? So
The word defective
Yes.
is just, it's really resonating. Whenever I think of shame,
Yeah.
that's exactly what it is. I literally feel like I'm defective. And especially like the older that you get, there's also stages for like, shame is going to hit you at different stages for like certain
different
kind of
things.
milestones that she should be hitting. 31, unmarried.
I'm
what?
thinking of the
What's
people.
wrong with you?
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the people, or in this example, of the women who don't have a good support system. Let's say you're married and your husband and sons and children do not support you. If you're not, your family do not support you. They actually want you to be aligned with the norm. Just as you guys were saying these things, I was just trying to be in their shoes. What do you do? Or if you were in those situations, what did you do?
You find your support system. You educate yourself on what's right, what's wrong for you, and you go for it.
Some people like they comply and they just give in because it's easier to submit and to just go along with what is told rather than to go against the grain. It's so difficult. So I mean, you say that you say you find your support system, but even finding that support system sometimes is not that easy.
It's not easy. It's not available for anyone. But it's better than, doing it alone is better than, for me, staying in that.
Yeah. So I would say a person that would comply I would say that person would be more shame prone than a person that would find their own support system, like what you said. So you would be less likely to experience shame because again, it comes to the self-esteem and being confident. So if you have high self-esteem, right, that's a buffer for shame. But if you have low self-esteem, and probably you've experienced shame, a lot of shame, like before, you're more likely to comply and just go with the social norms, like what you were mentioning,
It's like you grow a thicker skin because you get more and more used to going against the grain. So it's just like, what's gonna come at you and you just get stronger every time you get hit with that thing. It still might hurt, but the alternative is that you live an existence that's not authentic. Right?
Can you go down the list again of the things that
the same list? I wanted to. I was like reciting it in a بالعربي.
No, but I loved it. But I loved the way you were
so angry. I got it. Let's go. Okay.
No, it was real. It was very raw.
And she was looking at the camera.
Yeah. So it was a natural.
Unmarried, too eager, smiles too much, aggressive, is friends with the opposite sex, goes out, has a life, doesn't wear a scarf, your body in general, your voice, your presence, your attitude.
Do we have any other examples of women saying?
Can I interrupt?
Yes.
I'm in my late 20s and I'm more concerned about the bug fixing now. It's like, we've gone through trauma, we've been traumatized by parents, by moments in our lives. So I had a technique from a friend and I'm now wanting to shed the light on the tools and means to fix these things. So we talked about how shameful we are from this or that. And for me, it's like a friend of mine, he said to me, you can draw a line, like your timeline, since the first memory you have until today, and see why this memory stuck with you. Some of these memories because they were shameful or like happy ones, but the ones that hurt, you can because now you are not the same person was when this happened, now you can process it differently. So once you go back to that moment and you process it with the knowledge you have today, you would maybe get off that shame moment or that bad feeling about that moment, which stuck with you all until today. So these moments that you can capture from your timeline could be very useful for your future and for the bug fixing.
Yeah.
So I think we should talk more about the tools and means to get over it and
Solutions, yeah.
I love it.
Get along with our lives.
So what you're mentioning is inner child work, right? So
It's not only that time, but since then to today, like even yesterday, maybe you had that moment of shame, but you don't go back to it and process it. You just keep it dormant there without pondering, without finding out why I was feeling bad about that moment is what bring us the shame feelings,
Yeah.
What do you do about it?
Yeah, so you deal with it by what you were saying is basically you find the triggers that when you have experienced those difficult emotions such as shame, for instance, and you look back at it, right? You can challenge those, the beliefs that come with it. So change your perspective, try to have a different perspective, find the evidence that goes against those thoughts that are associated with those memories that gave you those negative core beliefs, right? And then also just sharing that story, like saying it out loud, like speaking to someone that you trust, or just even speaking out loud to yourself about what had happened and processing the emotions and making sense out of it. That is healing, when it's secret, there's a lady, Brene Brown, that talked about this, right? She talked about shame, and she said the antidote of shame is when you speak about it, you share your story, as in tell it to a confidant, tell it to someone that you trust, have a support system as well, and just talk about it, because secrecy makes it larger, the shame, that feeling a bit larger, So, and speak to yourself with kindness. This is the number one thing. Speak to yourself, right? As though, someone that was going through something similar to you, something difficult. You speak to them with kindness, or you speak to yourself with kindness. So someone you love, how would you speak to them? You would probably speak to them with compassion and kindness. So please do the same with you. And that's when you release the shame. Yeah, so it's not festering inside of you. You need a healthy channel for it.
What you said about secrets
Yes.
is يعني هو الشيء اللي أنا أتمنى الأرض تبلعني قبل ما هذا الشيء يطلع. That's what I should be talking about.
Yes.
There are many ways or many forms of shame.
Yes.
From something you have, from
Yes.
something you did.
Yes.
And what you said earlier about shame and guilt being cousins, the way I see it, usually guilt comes first from one action you did. But then if you did that action again, more than once, it comes as shame maybe, because I am the person who is doing this guilty action, right? Or saying guilty things. So in that sense also, is it healthy or is it right to say that we should have no shame? We should be shameless, just like that? Or there are things that you are guilty about, or for example, let's say if you stole, you're stealing, you stole once, twice, 3 times. Shouldn't you be ashamed of that? Or just feeling guilty, I did something bad, done.
Listen who showed up to the podcast today. Okay.
So that's why it's very beautiful. I love that, right?
Yeah.
But so I would say guilty is when it comes from a concrete action, right? You feel guilty for doing something wrong, and you sort of feel bad for hurting someone or doing something to someone, right? Taking their property or whatever it is. Shame is when you internalize it, when you believe that the social norm that you have violated is something desirable. You don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So yes, you can feel guilty and feel
That's the thing, that's the
yes.
distinction. Many of the social norms
Yes.
are defective,
Yeah.
are wrong. but many of the social norms are right as well.
Yes.
So we do feel
Yes.
shamed.
Yes.
And as you said earlier, you will feel the shame when you actually believe in that social norm, right? Maybe you are in a process trying to change your belief on that norm, but that belief or that social norm stands. If you don't believe it, many others do. So they might be right. You might not agree with it, but they might be right, and that's why you might feel ashamed or being guilty for breaking it, right?
So
Excellent,
if
yes.
I'm a thief, for example, and I keep on stealing, is it easier to stop stealing if I get over the shame or if I still have shame? So I don't go back to it.
To get over it?
Yeah, so if I can let go of the shame of stealing, is it easier to stop or to have shame so the next time I go, I'm guilty about
Say
it?
it again. So
If I'm a thief and I'm stealing, I have a lot of shame toward. I still I hold shame because I'm doing this act and I feel guilty about it. To stop stealing, is it easier
To carry it?
to still carry the shame so I don't go back to it, or to let go of the shame so I can go past it? Or yeah.
very good question. I don't know, but what I know is that psychopaths, right?
Don't feel
Shame
or
they
guilt.
don't feel shame. They don't have empathy. So I would say empathy would be a reason why also the thief will not also steal, and guilt and everything, and shame. I think all of them, maybe all three emotions, they have to experience a lot of in order to stop from stealing, right? So going back to your question, do you have to let go of shame in order for the thief to stop stealing? No, I think if you experience it, even more of it, then there's a high chance that you will not steal, right? Because it's coming from the inside. So you're motivated because you feel so small and humiliated. You're like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. This is really bad. I am a bad person. So in order to feel good about yourself, right, I'm gonna stop stealing.
But when you say that, I go back to, for example, shame with hijab. So I feel bad. I'm a bad person for not wearing it. So I should wear it so I don't feel that.
Okay, but
it's very.
No, but
Do you know what I mean?
but that's you. It depends on you. It's your belief system.
Yeah.
See, with stealing, he also had guilt, right? Because he was doing something bad, right? For you, it's a matter of your belief. If you want to wear the hijab to stop feeling guilty, then yes, wear the hijab, right?
It's what it means to me personally.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think another thing that I would say is that it's not a matter of holding on to the shame or letting go in terms of like the person who's like stealing. It's processing the reason why they feel the need to do that in the first place. I feel like there's a middle ground in that particular situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I don't think that it's completely letting go and completely forgetting and being oblivious. Like I never did that at all. But it's like try to understand exactly what the core of that is. Like why do you feel that impulse to do it in the first place? Because there's a seed from that needs to be healed rather than you just letting go or carrying.
Yeah.
So do you have anything to say, Nutaila?
Okay, so I would say, right, that when shame becomes chronic, then you're not able to deal with it on your own, and you're not able to fix it on your own, then that's where I would say that you should seek professional help. You should see a therapist that can help you process the difficult emotion and find the triggers for your shame and help you work through shame and just process it in a professional setting, in a confidential manner. So that would be my recommendation. But I also want to say that shame is universal. It's a universal emotion. It's a self-conscious emotion. I don't want people to think that they can rid themselves of shame forever, right? We're meant to have it. We're meant to have a range of difficult emotions. So we're meant to feel jealous. We're meant to feel guilty. We're meant to feel disgust, anger, fear, and all that. But remember what you do about it. That is what counts. What you do about the emotion in response to you feeling that way, how you behave, that is very important. Because also with shame, as I mentioned earlier, if it becomes really chronic and you don't really deal with it, you can have a host of psychological problems. You're more at risk of developing depression, low self-esteem, anxiety, social anxiety disorder, generalized anxiety disorder. So when you get to that stage, then that's when I say, please seek professional help. Okay? And that's it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank
guys
you
done?
for having me here.
Thank you for coming. This was Aib.
Yes.
This is Aib.
Yeah, this is
okay. We're gonna call. Yeah, we're gonna call the episode Aib.
عيب. Yes, عشان shame.
Yeah.
Yes. عيب.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks
Taylor.
for having me.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. تركيا حتى.